Honor. Honor seems like a truly noble personal trait to strive toward possessing amongst the cadre of other less desirable ones. We all do our best to boot stomp deep down within the pitch black cavern we all collectively call our butts. Like the way all of us collectively, like every single person, you know how we like to breathe on the nape of a stranger's neck whilst traveling on public transportation. Nah, not like in a weird sex kind of way, but like you feel this unshakable inner power from it, like God herself is breathing through you. Back to honor, though, it's absolutely one of the noblest and most sturdy foundations that a person's personality can possibly be erected atop. A mighty precipice peering politely over your shared property line and pestering your Pontiac Aztec driving suburban neighbor into pontification on whether the penile personification that is your pride pagoda is intentional or just merely perceived. I'm more than all for being a totally fucking cool and righteous guy and dude and fucking man. Yeah. But the whole lifetime pursuit of the collection of something so intangible yet monetarily coveted as honor seems more like what the illustrious Baba Rabat, the beatboxing tater tot, would call a dick measuring contest. Which, honestly, Rob, always just seemed like it would be an awfully uncomfortable situation of a contest to find yourself involved in. All I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that we should all just do our damnedest not to be fucking dicks to each other. Least we find ourselves in some deeply degrading contest. And now I'll go against my own lesson here by reminding everyone out there that our new good buddy James Conan was conceived. That means his parents had sex, and then he came like 9 months later, because his parents came, after a Tool concert in the late 90s. Hey, just because being on the show is therapy doesn't mean that I can't then use the information that's divulged in a negative way to poke and prod for fun and profit. And I love you, James. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone and everything, for joining us tonight on another fun till her daddy takes her T-bird away episode of See No, Hear No, Speak No.
The UFOs, the conspiracies, and the Midas.
Indeed. As hopefully returning listeners can probably hear, that's not Chris.
Hello.
That's a good, righteous fucking quality James on the line tonight.
Hopefully this time we'll get past our previous recording issues, because every time I've tried to record, it's been kind of experimental and weird.
Mm-hmm. And this time, we're just doing it old style, which means missionary, with a hole cut in the sheet. Because we are both Mormons, as
yes,
God
sir.
also intended. Yes. That's how you're supposed to have homosexual involvement. Jesus Christ, James. It's your first just solo episode with me in less than a minute in.
Listen, man, I'm planting my seed.
You do have very beautiful hair, as I've mentioned on the show before. So, it has been a super secret what this episode was going to be about, because I was going to do another episode at first, and then I started watching a movie today, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it about that thing that's heavily featured in that movie. Because it's interest of mine, and it's somewhat morbid, and it's got a surprising amount of history to go along with it. The topic for tonight is Seppuku, also sometimes referred to as Harakiri, which is the ritual suicide by cutting the belly that samurai used to do.
Yeah.
People up until actually kind of recently still kind of pulling the same shtick, which you would think is a little... Anyway, the neat thing about seppuku, that's kind of the only way that the Japanese ever refer to this, which literally translate to cutting the belly, is also sometimes referred to as harakiri, which also means the cutting of the abdomen or belly. The neat thing about the word is the kanji for it, the character for it, is the same for seppuku and harakiri, but is reversed. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Wait,
James.
One second. Time out.
So, I just said the thing about the character back and forward, and I thought that was kind of a neat little deal for a word that means the, ritual suicide of someone who supposedly had a bit of class. And by that, I mean they were, it was a feudal system, basically. So, there were different classes, and the samurai liked to shove pointy things into their tum-tums and go to sleep forever because of it. James.
Well, it's an honor thing, right? It's only really done after like a super serious duel, like they're fighting over like some dude like fucked his wife or something, and they're trying to decide over this duel, and then he kills himself. That's just I'm just saying a situation that intense or something like that. I
mean, it is surely for super intense situations, but they're a little more globally. Not globally, but, as xenophobic as Japan is, I guess globally could be a proper word to use for it. It is something like the samurai class they live by an honor code. And if they, say, disgrace their lord, then they could be told to commit seppuku to restore this honor. And they would have to do it in front of basically a crowd, including the one that they had dishonored, and doing so in the proper... Because there was ritual to all of this, and we'll go deeper into what that was. But as long as they carried everything out with respect and honor, and killed themselves in front of a crowd, then they would have restored some of that honor that they lost, so that their families wouldn't have to deal with the dishonor of having someone dishonorable,
Of course.
It's a good thing, is what I'm saying. It is something that I think that we as the American people should really look into. So it was used either voluntarily, so people could basically say, hey, I fucked up real bad, I'd like to kill myself and save face a bit. Or, it was also a form of capital punishment. If, two warring factions are going at it, and the one that wins is like, I would like not to have an uprising or a rebellion or things. So all of you big samurai guys on the other side that lost, I'm going to need you to go ahead and kill yourselves now.
Yeah.
So, or... like capital punishment in the form of, like you said, samurai that had committed serious fucking offenses, like rape or unsanctioned murder, or basically a murder that when they looked at it they were like, I don't don't think it's really fair that you killed that guy. You know? Because your reasons, some people blow their nose in public. It's not, it's not his fault that he did it and you don't like it. It happens. It's not illegal. You really probably shouldn't have killed him in front of his kids. But
his reasons are understandable, though.
Oh, I hate it too. Blow your nose at home, you fucking savage.
Yeah. Like, don't bring that shit around me.
How dare blow your nose in bed and leave the dirty nose napkins by the pillows like normal people, Melissa. Wow, that was the quickest bird I've ever seen come up. Good job with that one.
Man, everyone was just flipping you off in that house, man.
No, the baby did it to you.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. Yeah, I still love her.
So, that's okay. It's okay. Yes. Question?
Yeah, sorry. So basically, committing, how do you pronounce it properly? The seppuku?
Yeah, seppuku.
Seppuku? Seppuku?
Yeah.
Yep. So the reason for committing that is basically so your family could be like, yeah, my husband did this shit, but, at least he died an honorable death. Basically, like...
yes, but the wife certainly would not be saying that because the wives of the men that had to do it usually also ritualistically killed themselves.
Jesus Christ! So you're a little kid and your dad fucks up, so then your dad and your mom have to murder themselves like in front of you.
Yes, but only so that your entire family doesn't get murdered.
Yeah. Well, in that situation, I see the, but that's wild, dude.
It's fun. It's a fun time for the whole family, as we've just learned. So, the first recorded act of seppuku was performed by Minamoto no Yoramasa during the Battle of Uji in the year 1180.
Jeez.
That's a long fucking time ago.
Yeah, it's like
1180.
It's like before World War II.
That is, couldn't have been like that long before World War II.
Before World War I, even.
Are you sure?
No.
James, what are numbers and dates?
So seppuku is it's pretty interesting, man. I don't know. I'm deflecting. I've lost track of my thoughts.
Are you reflecting or are you deflecting?
I'm deflecting.
Are you reflectively deflecting? So seppuku was used by warriors, being samurai specifically, to avoid falling into enemy hands at first. So it was just like the Japanese did in World War II, be they soldiers or actually a lot of civilians did it as well. Instead of being captured by and put into camps by Americans, lots of people just fucking killed themselves.
Which is a crazy overreaction, knowing that, like, relatively, the camps weren't that bad.
No, right. Especially compared to others at the time, especially the Japanese, actually.
Like, the only reason was just to... Yeah, dude, no, the Japanese in World War II were savage, man. Like, they did some fucked up shit. But
wait till we get to Unit 731.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they were also told through lots of state-run propaganda that don't let yourself fall into the hands of the Americans because holy fuck are they goddamn savages, and they're going to do really, really bad things to you.
Jeez.
So, instead of that happening, you should just kill yourself because, honor and such,
Yeah, I know.
I
know just as well as you do.
So like I said, at first they kind of just did it to avoid falling into, enemy hands. Uh-huh. But they would also use it to take away some of the shame that losing gave them, and also to possibly avoid being tortured. Because, yay, olden times.
So,
But they could...
how does this, like, reflect religiously for them at the time? Like, does this have any type of religious significance as far as, like,
Absolutely
an
not.
afterlife?
Nope. This is all about saving face in the here and now. That is literally it. It's so that their family can continue to be of high status, basically.
Well,
because
I guess
a disgraced samurai is a fucking forgotten and pushed away goddamn family, which is now going from living the life of luxury because their father or whoever is an important samurai for the daimyo, or being completely exiled as a family, and or if it was bad enough, being killed as an entire family.
Yeah. Well, I guess more what I meant though was like, did they believe that there were any consequences in the afterlife for doing that? Like how
No,
in a lot of religions, suicide
it's literally
results in like hell, basically.
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of got some information about religion, but most of that relationship is that there is no relationship. So,
Makes sense.
So samurai could also be ordered to commit seppuku by their daimyo, like I said, or just their lord. The person that they served could be like, "Hey, you do it," and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." Later on in time, even just disgraced warriors, they were allowed to carry out seppuku rather than be just executed by the side that won, which is very nice of them, I think.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's okay. You'll learn. You'll learn. The most common form of this was when a samurai would take mostly a short sword, which is a tanto, which I guess that's more their dagger than a short sword.
Yeah.
And it would be wrapped in some either rice paper or cloth so that the samurai wouldn't cut their hands while holding it. And they would plunge the knife into the left side of the lower abdomen and drag it slowly from left to right, and mostly would have a small turn upwards at the end and a pull up. Then, eventually, because at the very early stages, after after the gutting of yourself, you would then either plunge that same dagger into your throat, or you would stand, hold the point of the dagger to your heart, and fall forwards onto it.
And that's if you survive the initial belly cut.
Yeah, because I saw somewhere that if they actually plunge the knife deep enough, there is an artery down there toward the base of your spine, that if you were lucky enough, I use that in big quotes, if you were lucky enough to cut that, then you would bleed out really quickly. So later on, because the whole stabbing yourself in the throat thing and holding a knife to your heart and falling forward onto it that just seems excessive, I guess.
Yeah, man. That sounds like a parody of some shit. It doesn't sound real.
Yeah. Hey, what's the craziest way this guy could kill himself with a knife?
And then let's go overboard by making him fall on it.
That's right. Now, I see that your intestines are in a pool in front of you. Do me a favor, though. Stand up. Yes. Now, put, the sharp part of the knife. Yeah, pull it out of yourself. Okay, yeah. Now, sharp, pointy bit. Put it right to your chest. And now I need you to just, like stiff as a board. Just fall forward.
Dude, I have trouble standing up if I stub my toe.
Man, toe stubs, though. Ouch, right?
Yeah,
like that. I think
that
would be worse.
Abdominal, mutilation.
Yeah, hey guys, you can do one of two things. You can gut yourself like a fish, or you can kick this side of the doorway as you walk through it, just with 1 or 2 toes.
Just instant stabs.
Oh yeah, I'd be grabbing knives all day. Let's do this shit.
Of course.
So, later on, since that was a bit much, they added what would be called just a second. I'll run into the Japanese word for it a little further down. But the assistant would be either a close friend or a trusted, like, honorable, good samurai. And this second would wait for the belly cut, and then when the samurai who is committing seppuku was ready, he would fucking put his head forward and stretch his neck out, and his second would then cut his head off to end his suffering.
I mean, I guess that's better.
I mean, it's quicker. If you did it wrong, you're not just sitting there bleeding out. You know, it's. I think that's a lot better. I think the whole thing's kind of fucking ridiculous.
I mean, the
or more than
Europeans
kinda.
got it right. They just went straight to the head cutting, and if they didn't mess around with all like the self mutilation. The Europeans are just like, nah, dude, just a quick axe to the head is that's fine.
But the weird thing about that is, of all the people to add pomp and circumstance to fucking head cutting, I would expect the Europeans to be more flashy about it and shit. And just wait until we get to the like the really the minutia of this whole thing. Is pretty. The ritual is fun. It's not fun. I mean, it's terrifying. Just imagining yourself having to go through this in front of friends and loved ones and people you hate.
Yeah.
You know,
it's rough things like getting a paper cut. Honestly.
Oh goddamn! See, paper cut. Worse than seppuku.
To be honest, dude. I mean, you ever get a paper cut, but like on cardboard? Not cardboard.
Yes.
Construction paper.
Yes, construction paper. Paper cuts are like a buzzsaw going through you.
Yeah, no.
And then just leaving broken glass inside of it.
It's brutal. It's I've seen the face of death, and he made me cry.
So you should have just played chess against him, and then, then you'd be fine. See, there's a cultural reference that you have no reference point for. I just made it. Chris would have laughed.
I was born
James,
in 1999.
Jesus Christ. You were born in 1999. I was doing terrible things already. But that was a reference to Bill and Ted. And, Bogus Journey. Yeah.
Man, see, I should know it, though. I've seen that before. I need to rewatch it. Well, I have watched Bill and Ted before. I'm not that uncultured. It is
a quality cinematic hit.
They're coming out with the new one. I'm pretty pumped about the new one.
They're coming out with a new one?
Yeah.
Still with Keanu in it?
Yes, Keanu and I forget the other guy's name. It's kind of sad, but
no one fucking knows the other guy's name.
Like,
whatever.
Keanu went on to do great things. The other guys, Bill and Ted 1, 2, and then Bill and Ted 3.
Yeah, I mean, I know his name from the movie. It's Ted Theodore Logan because Keanu's name was Bill S. Preston Esquire.
Bill S. Preston Esquire.
And they are the Wild Stallions. So
definitely worth a rewatch.
So the practice of seppuku, back to that, which is a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Wasn't actually like standardized as a ritual practice until around the 17th century, which means 1600s. Just FYI.
Okay.
So in the 12th and 13th centuries, like with Minamoto, the practice of a kaishakunin. That's what it is. That's his second. That's the dude that stands up with a sword. Kaishakunin. They didn't have that yet, so it was way more painful because you just had to fucking bleed out. So, in the absence of a second, the samurai would remove the blade from his belly, stab himself in the throat, or fall from a standing position with the blade positioned against his heart. Just so much. So much. But we get to the 1600s, and it became like a really, like I said, it became a ritual full of fucking pomp and circumstance, which was usually performed in front of spectators. Well, if it was a planned event, if not, it was usually on the battlefield, which no one would give a shit. So, a samurai was bathed, then he was dressed in a white kimono that specifically denotes death, and he would have just like a death row prisoner, they would give him his favorite food for a last meal, and when he was finished eating, the knife, most likely the tanto, and cloth were placed on a raised plate in front of him. So dressed in this ceremonial garb, with his sword placed in front of him, and they would first prepare by writing a death poem. Is this not the most metal fucking thing you've ever heard?
This is so Japanese, man. This doesn't really surprise me.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm gonna kill myself, but I still hate all of you.
Something like that. Or like a haiku.
Death poem. Wait, that's 575, is it?
Yeah. I can't do a haiku off the top. I can't.
Knife in belly now. Thank you for the T-bone steak.
Yeah.
Please wrap my guts up. Haiku, bitch.
Okay, yeah, that works. Respect.
Mm-hmm. I like respect. Because if I don't have it, I have to fucking gut myself, which is not a good thing. So, he would open up his kimono, and then he'd pick up the knife, so that his whole torso was naked, which is sexy and scary, same time,
Yeah.
So, the samurai would hold the blade with the cloth, so he wouldn't cut himself.
Of course.
He'd plunge it in.
Gotta be delicate.
Which is good. But prior to doing this, he would consume a ceremonial drink of sake. Not enough to get him drunk, but hey, here's some stuff you probably used to really enjoy. And he would also give his attendant a cup meant for sake. I don't know if sake would be in it, but he'd give him a cup that you're supposed to put it in there with. They would take the arms of the kimono that they were wearing, and they would tuck it basically under their legs, how they were sitting, to make sure that when they died, they would fall forward, because a proper Japanese soldier or samurai would it was bad to fall backwards if you die. I don't get the significance, but
yeah, dude, it's like when you knock salt over.
But you have to always knock salt over forward?
No, you gotta throw it behind your back, it's like how you gotta do that, you gotta fall forward when you commit seppuku. You can't
what?
Fall back, it's bad luck. But you can't throw salt over your shoulder if you're dead, so you're just fucked, so you gotta make sure you get it right the first time. I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, good. Good. Maybe you can explain it a little better afterwards.
Okay.
So after he cut his belly, like I said, his kaishakunin would then perform kaishaku, of course, which is a cut where the samurai would be partially decapitated.
Jesus.
Yeah. In which way a slight band of flesh is left attaching the head to the body so that it can be hung in front as if embraced. Because because of the
Don't
precision
laugh.
needed
This
to
isn't
do
funny.
this. No, it's hilarious. Because of the precision needed to do this cut, their second was almost always a skilled swordsman. Because how do you cut just enough to leave a tiny little strip of flesh hanging
That's
on
wild.
the front? Because
that's some
and the reason-
damn fucking precision.
the reason to do that is so that the head doesn't come off and fly toward the officials that were there to watch everything. Oh man, it's ridiculous.
I'm a bad person.
Yeah, we all are. It's okay. Jesus Christ. The process became so crazy high, like just ritual, that sometimes toward the end, as soon as the samurai would even just reach for his blade, his second would stand and cut his head off, just to save him from having to do that shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, actually, the blade was just taken away completely, and they would put something symbolic there, like a fan, for them to reach for, and then their second would just kill them once they reach for the fan. And this happened where a lot of times it was too dangerous to have a blade there, because the guy that you were making kill himself might pick the blade up and like attack people and try to get away.
He has no honor.
The second was usually, but of course not always, a friend. If a defeated warrior had fought honorably and well, then an opponent who wanted to say, "Hey man, you're fucking brave, and I think that's swell," he would sometimes volunteer to act as that captured samurai's second. I mean, that's
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would ask for you, but if it were just you and like a bunch of strangers there that I had never met, then I would be an honor.
Yeah, man, I'll cut your head off.
Wow, you're not the first person to tell me that today.
I'm sorry,
So
man. Are you
from there's a book or an old Japanese writing, something like that, called Harakiri, and it was written by Yamamoto Tsutomo. Sunetomo, sorry. This is bad. And he writes, from ages past, it's been considered an ill omen by samurai to be requested as a kaishaku. The reason for this is that one gains no fame from it, even if the job is well done. Further, if one should blunder, it becomes a lifetime disgrace. In the practice of past times, there were instances when the head flew off. It was said that it was best to cut, leaving a little skin remaining so that it didn't fly off in the direction of the verifying officials. You're right?
This is fun.
I mean, your speechlessness is like, I told you this was going to be a good fun one.
It's
And
taking a
that,
second.
that you should be happy to be here.
It's just taking a second to like absorb it. It's rough. It is rough.
No, you start absorbing this shit, and it gets deep inside you and forms like kidney stones and shit. You gotta just let this stuff just roll off your back.
But this is in situations where it's basically like modern death row inmates. Like, these people did some shit, like, to be in this position, right?
Nope.
What?
Some did, yes, but not all. No.
So it could just literally be like what you said, where Laura's just like, "Hey, you, kill yourself."
Like maybe you farted in front of the emperor. Guess what? Seppuku.
I mean, dude, if you're in front of the emperor, maybe don't fart. I mean, being killed is a little far, but I would 100%. I don't fart in front of anybody, to be honest, except my
All right.
girlfriend.
Well, I mean, at least try and make it silent so that you could blame it on the guy next to you.
Some, or say someone's like smoking weed outside.
Is that what your farts smell like, James?
No.
Your comment, like, it literally took me a second to be like, are we having the same conversation?
Man, I'm
So
getting
that's
way
good.
off track.
That's okay. So, a specialized form of seppuku in feudal times was known as kanshi, which is Death of Understanding, in which the person that was committing said suicide would commit said suicide in protest of their lord's of a decision that their lord had made. They're like, hey, that's bad policy. I'll show you that I'm serious, like totes, like just so goddamn serious that I hate that you're changing the colors of the bathrooms in the city to blue instead of teal. I'm gonna show you my displeasure by I'm gonna kill myself.
I'm going to kill myself. If you do this, I'm going to kill myself.
God, if the internet would just do that instead. So,
Seppuku.
the retainer, the complainee or complainer, they would cut their belly basically in kind of in private, and then they would quickly bandage the wound up, and then they would go see their lord in person.
Jesus Christ!
They would be like, they would give a speech where they were like, hey, like, fuck you in your bathrooms and shit. And then he would open up the bandage, and stuff would plop out, and they would die.
Oh wait, dude, I'm getting flashbacks. I think Joe might have been talking about this one night. Yeah, that's wild, dude. I feel like I've heard this before. That's like some horror movie type shit. That's like,
yeah.
That's.
I mean, I would almost guarantee you that this feudal lord has either seen or done probably much worse.
Well, I mean, he's a feudal lord. I mean, kind of. It's not a peaceful
comes with the
position.
territory.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying. So, some samurai chose to perform a considerably more extreme form of seppuku, known as Jumanji Giri.
Hey, that's a word that I'm familiar with in a different context.
Yeah. I mean, technically, is the name of a game and a movie. Is it
and another
word?
Movie which we don't talk about. Which I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's good or not.
I've actually heard good things. I still haven't seen it though.
I have also heard good things.
So this stands for cross-shaped cut, in which there is no second to put a quick end to the suffering. So what the samurai would do is they would cut across the belly, and then they would go ahead and do like an inverted cut up the abdomen from the belly cut.
To make a cross.
And he was expected to not wince or cry or moan, show no sign of discomfort whatsoever, and suffer quietly until he bleeds to death with his hands over his face.
Jesus, man. Does it get more extreme? Is there more extreme versions? Or is that like the worst one?
That's kind of like the bad one.
Dude,
yeah.
That's what... dude, just the thought of like sitting there and making like a perfect cross in your abdomen with like a 6-inch blade. It's like... It's...
Mm-hmm.
And then not even wince or like show any pain. Like just sit there like straight face, just like poker face, just dead-eyed, straight ahead, and just guts hanging out, and just put your hands over your face and just take it.
That's if I had a nickel.
Dude, so what happens when these people like? Oh man, they must feel terrible when they cut into their stomach, and you got the few that do start crying because, oh my god, you're cutting into your stomach. Like there's like,
I want to say
couldn't do it, couldn't keep a straight face.
I want to say that it wasn't so commonplace, but I also at the same time have seen numbers of yearly seppuku, related death could have been as high as 15,000 a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And on
like,
a small island
10,
nation,
even if only 10 people did it, like in that version where you can't even whisper show pain. Like I guarantee at least one of them was like fucked up and like showed pain, and they were just like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, we can't cut his head off now. Like, he's got to sit there and, you know what? Since you wanted to show pain from cutting your belly, well, here, smoke a whole carton of cigarettes.
That's exactly what they did. I was there. I saw it.
Sweet, sweet Marlboro Reds.
Cigarettes.
Take me home, country road. Ah, they call them cowboy killers. I'm not a cowboy. Completely safe. So, in the 1860s, which is really not that fucking long ago, there was a British ambassador to Japan whose name was, no shit, Algernon Freeman Mitford. Algernon.
Huh.
Lord Redesdale. Redesdale? Redesdale. Redesdale. Anyway. Redezel. I like that. Redezel from Nezel.
Redezel from
he lived within sight of Sengaku-ji, which is where the 47 Ronin are buried. Have you ever seen the Akira Kurosawa masterpiece, 47 Samurai?
I may have, but I'm gonna say no.
It's like I think over 3 hours long.
Wait,
and it's in
hours?
black and white.
It's
in black and white.
It's a movie?
It's over 3 hours long. Yeah.
Is that the one where there's one scene where the guy's like running along the balcony of the building while the arrows are being shot at him, and like they start like pinning his armor and shit, and it's all like actual arrows being shot at him by actual archers?
Oh, I don't know.
So okay.
I've watched it, but I haven't. So anyway.
Okay.
The real world site
Fuck
where the 47 Ronin are buried, because the 47 Samurai were actual people. That did actually happen. And I mean, but they were Ronin, which are masterless or lordless samurai, which means they ain't got no jobs no more. They took our jobs and such.
Uh-huh.
So this British guy, the ambassador, Lord Redesdale, he lived within sight of the cemetery where the 47 Ronin are buried, and in his book, which is titled Tales of Old Japan, he describes a man who had come to the graves there to kill himself. And I will now read. I will add one anecdote to show the sanctity which is attached to the graves of the 47. In the month of September 1868, a certain man came to pray before the grave of Oshi Chikara. Having finished his prayers, he deliberately performed harakiri, and the belly wound, not being mortal, dispatched himself by cutting his throat. Upon his person were found papers setting forth that, being a Ronin and without means of earning a living, he had petitioned to be allowed to enter the clan of the Prince of Choshiu, I guess, which he looked upon as the noblest clan in the realm. His petition having been refused, nothing remained for him but to die. For to be a Ronin was hateful to him, and he would serve no other master than the Prince of Choshiu. What more fitting place could he find in which to put an end to his life than the graveyard of these braves? This happened at about 200 yards distance from my house, and when I saw the spot an hour or two later, the ground was all bespattered with blood and disturbed by the death struggles of the man.
Jeez.
So that's that's how it was, like, as far as honor went.
Yeah, so that was an up
Dude,
and down honor killing. So like his master died.
Dude fucking lost his job.
He saw
exactly.
He saw no honor in not having a lord and refused to not have another lord. My computer just went to sleep, but I'm still recording.
Indeed.
I lost track. God. Yeah. So
But
like
yeah,
up and down,
so-
it's just like just pure honor.
So he killed
to him.
himself because he's like, if I can't serve this specific guy, who's the only guy that I think is honorable enough for me to serve, then there's no use in me living anymore, because if I can't be a fucking samurai, then I love that line that he says, to be a Ronin was hateful to him.
Yeah.
So to be a masterless samurai was hateful to this one. The British guy also describes his friend's eyewitness account of someone committing seppuku. He says, there are many stories on record of extraordinary heroism being displayed in the Harakiri. The case of a young fellow, only 20 years old, of the Choshiu clan, which was told me the other day by an eyewitness, deserves mention as a marvelous instance of determination. Not content with giving himself the one necessary cut, he slashed himself thrice horizontally and twice vertically, which I just see a tic-tac-toe board when I... Anyway, then he stabbed himself in the throat until the dirk protruded on the other side with its sharp edge to the front. Setting his teeth in one supreme effort, he drove the knife forward with both hands through his throat and fell dead.
Oof. Wait. So that was through his neck or like through his mouth?
His neck.
Okay. That's wild. I can't.
I mean, cutting your tum-tum open is wild. That is fucking just balls to the wall crazy.
Yeah, so it sounds like this man started pushing it in, got through the first wall of his esophagus, got stopped by the other wall, and he was just like, oh, 2 hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
The English dude, Mitford, did actually witness someone commit seppuku as well, and this is his quick little story about that. As a corollary to the above elaborate statement of the ceremonies proper to be observed at the Harakiri, I may here describe an instance of such an execution which I was sent officially to witness. The condemned man was Taki Zenzaburo, an officer of the Prince of Bison, who gave the order to fire upon the foreign settlement at Hyogo in the month of February 1868, an attack to which I have alluded in the preamble of the story to the Eta Maiden and the Hatamoto. Up to that time, no foreigner had witnessed such an execution, which was rather looked upon as a traveler's fable. The ceremony, which was ordered by the Mikado, which is the emperor, by the Mikado himself, took place at 10:30 at night in the temple of Seifukuji, the headquarters of the Satsuma troops at Hyogo. A witness was sent from each of the foreign legations. We were 7 foreigners in all. After another profound obeisance, Taki Zenzaburo, in a voice which betrayed just so much emotion and hesitation as might be expected from a man who is making a painful confession, but with no sign of either in his face or manner, spoke as follows. I, and I alone, unwarrantably gave the order to fire on the foreigners at Kobe, and again as they tried to escape. For this crime I disembowel myself, and I beg you who are present to do me the honor of witnessing the act. So, bowing once more, the speaker allowed his upper garments to slip down to his girdle, and remain naked to the waist. Carefully, according to custom, he tucked his sleeves under his knees to prevent himself from falling backwards, for a noble Japanese gentleman should die falling forward. Deliberately, with a steady hand, he took the dirk that lay before him, and he looked at it wistfully, almost affectionately. For a moment he seemed to collect his thoughts for the last time, and then, stabbing himself deeply below the waist on the left-handed side, he drew the dirk slowly across to the right side, and turning it in the wound, gave a slight cut upwards. During this sickeningly painful operation he never moved a muscle of his face. When he drew out the dirk, he leaned forward and stretched out his neck. An expression of pain for the first time crossed his face, but he uttered no sound. At that moment, the Kaishaku, who, still crouching by his side, had been keenly watching his every movement, sprang to his feet, poised his sword for a second in the air. There was a flash, a heavy, ugly thud, a crashing fall. With one blow, the head had been severed from the body. A dead silence followed. broken only by the hideous noise of blood throbbing out of the inert heap before us, which but a moment before had been a brave and chivalrous man. It was horrible. The kaishaku made a low bow, wiped his sword with a piece of rice paper which he had ready for the purpose, and retired from the raised floor. And the stained dirk was solemnly borne away, a bloody proof of the execution. The two representatives of the Mikado then left their places, and crossing over to where the foreign witnesses sat, called us to witness that the sentence of death upon Taki Zenzaburo had been faithfully carried out. The ceremony being at an end, we left the temple. The ceremony to which the place and the hour gave an additional solemnity was characterized throughout by that extreme dignity and punctiliousness.
What?
Damn it.
Huh?
I don't fucking... and being punctual, which are the distinctive marks of the proceedings of Japanese gentlemen of rank. And it is important to note this fact because it carries with it the conviction that the dead man was indeed the officer who had committed the crime, and no substitute. While profoundly impressed by the terrible scene, it was impossible at the same time not to be filled with admiration of the firm and manly bearing of the sufferer, and of the nerve with which the kaishaku performed his last duty to his master. The end of that story.
All right. So recap. Why was he having to commit that again? Like to commit seppuku?
He had fired on some foreigners.
That's right. Okay.
And when they were then running, he fired again.
Yeah.
So
I
that
can
was
see
why, a no-no at the time.
Yeah, I can see why. That's very dishonorable.
But he took responsibility for the whole thing, where he says, I and I alone did this. I called for the order to do it, and for the order to keep firing at them as they retreated. That was me and me alone. So that's why I'm doing this. And that's another thing. I mean, there were undoubtedly lots of other fucking people firing at these foreigners. But this guy was the Jesus of that fucking situation. He died for their fucking sins, so that their sins could be forgiven.
Jeez. I mean, to be honest, yeah. He's the Jesus of that situation.
Bible fact. So,
What is Bible cast?
Seppuku as a judicial punishment was abolished in 1873. That's not that fucking long ago.
Wait, what year?
1873.
1873.
So,
Jeez, that's
less than 200 years ago.
Less than 150 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's just as a judicial punishment, it was abolished. But voluntary seppuku didn't die out then. After that, dozens of people are known to have committed it, including General Nogi and his wife on the death of Emperor Meiji in 1912. There were, like I said, a fuckload of soldiers and civilians who committed the act rather than surrender. And this is at the end of the war. Man, it sucks. So, the last known case of a proper public seppuku was in 1970. It wasn't one that was scheduled or ordered or anything like that. But in 1970, author Yukio Mishima and one of his followers performed public seppuku at the Japan Self-Defense Forces headquarters after an unsuccessful attempt to incite the armed forces to stage a coup d'etat. Mishima performed seppuku in the office of General Kanetoshi Mashida. His second, a 25-year-old man named Masakatsu Morita, tried 3 times to ritually behead Mishima but failed.
Jesus.
His head was finally severed by Hiroyasu Koga, who was a former kendo champion. Morita then attempted to perform seppuku himself, but his own cuts were far too shallow to be fatal. So he went ahead and gave the signal, and Koga then decapitated Morita. That was in 1970.
Jesus Christ, that sucks, dude. That guy couldn't even do it right. He didn't go deep enough. He's like
exactly.
He was like, oh well, I fucked up. But now this is like double shameful. Just go ahead and kill me now. 1970, man. Jesus.
Yeah, and that was again to be like, hey, that bit of policy, or really, they were trying to get the army or the Japanese self-defense force anyway to rise up and take over the government, which is what a coup d'etat is.
Yeah.
So the fact that they didn't do that, they were like, well, I guess I'll kill myself then.
Oh, can't even kill myself.
Can't even make Japan great again.
SMH my head.
Wait, isn't SMH shake my head? Why would you say SMH my head?
Because I'm shaking my
head. Shake my head, my head?
No, because I'm...
if you shake it more than 3 times, you're playing with it.
Bro, no, I'm just shaking my head, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, the guy that we talked about at the very top, Minamoto no Tametomo. Yeah.
Tomato.
Tomato. That's right. He was the first known person that had to do this. I'm gonna talk about him just for a second because I was reading through like notable people that had to fucking do this, and his story is kind of fun. He was a samurai who fought in the Hogan Rebellion. That's right, the Hogan Rebellion of 1156. No, that's Randy Savage, but that's okay. He was the son of Minamoto no Tamayoshi and brother to Yukai and Yoshitomo. These names all melding together. Anyway,
you're doing your best, man.
Tametomo is known in the epic chronicles as a powerful archer, and it's said that he once sunk an entire Taira ship with a single arrow by puncturing its hull below the waterline. It's also added in many legends that his left arm was about 4 inches longer than his right, enabling a longer draw of the arrow and more powerful shots.
Interesting.
Yeah, he fought to defend Shirakawa-den alongside his father against the forces of Taira no Kiyomori and Minamoto no Yoshitomo, who is his brother. The palace was set aflame, and Tametomo was forced to flee, so they lost. So after the rebellion, the Taira, who is the lead other guy, he cut the sinew of Tametomo's left arm, which would limit the use of his bow, and then he was banished to the island of Oshima in the Izu Islands. Tametomo eventually killed himself by slicing his abdomen or committing seppuku. He's quite possibly the very first ever to commit said act.
So, is that something that he invented then, or was this already a concept that just had not been put into practice yet? That's fair. But yeah,
it's I guess it may just be the first recorded.
That's interesting, but that's pretty cool though. That was a pretty fun story, especially because I don't know how true that is about the 4 inches longer left arm, but if that is true and that is accurate, then that's pretty incredible because that would
super weird.
That would definitely
super weird, right?
That would definitely help you as an archer having a longer
yeah.
up.
I mean, really. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, wouldn't a longer right arm just like be able to pull the string back further too? Like, wouldn't just if either were longer? No, I guess not because you got to pull it like back to your eye or what. I don't know. Anyway, so there is one more case of seppuku. I said that like it was a cold, but that happened after the 1971 that we just talked about. But It's not definitely. I'll get to it. So, Isao Inokuma was he won a gold medal in the heavyweight division for judo at the 1964 Summer Olympics in Tokyo.
Ah.
And then went on to win a world title in 1965. His birthday, day before mine. I mean, he was born in 1938, but February 4th. That means he's an okay guy. He's an okay guy in my book.
Yeah.
But in 1966, which is right after the year after he won his world title, he resigned from his post at the Tokyo Police Department to become an executive at the Tokai Construction Company. He would still do judo, and he was an advisor for the International Judo Federation, and as an instructor at Tokai University, where he coached future Olympic gold medalist Yashiro Yamashita. He also authored several books and manuals on judo. So, in 2001, he committed suicide by means of seppuku, possibly due to financial losses suffered by his company.
Jeez.
But they that's just a possibly, because he may have instead actually became a guru in a new Japanese religion.
What? What?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just stuff. It's just stuff,
That's kind of crazy. Well, what? Do you know what religion?
I do. Yes.
You want to share it with the class?
No, I don't.
That's unfair.
Is it?
Is it connected to certain organizations?
Oh, no. I just I can't seem to find where I had that link bookmarked. So it's more of a
Gotcha.
But I mean, all of our listeners, and possibly you even, are somewhat intelligent folk, and I'm sure that if you really, really, really wished about it, that you could fucking find what you needed.
I don't know, man. I think you're
Fair.
overestimating my
I think
intelligence.
that's fair. Hey man, I said already, it's a pretty low bar. So, that is the story, the backstory, the front story, the side story. Oh, when women did it, they would just cut their throats, by the way. I mean, they'd still have like a whole thing, like a whole, circumstance / pomp, where they would sit down in their weird little Japanese, like, kneeling down, on the ground position, and then they would tie their legs together so that after they died, their legs would stay in a dignified position.
I feel like I've heard something about this. Was that also something to do with rape? Or am I...
I read quite a bit on this today, and I didn't see anything other than it being a punishment for rape. So no, I don't think them tying their legs together had anything to do with that.
So like if a woman got raped,
like if a samurai raped a woman, they would more often than not would be forced to commit seppuku.
Okay, because I was about to say that sounds like a totally different culture.
Yeah, no. The women would usually do it if their husband basically had to do it. Like I said earlier, I don't believe they were forced to if their husband did, but I know that many did. Or if they were trying to also save face about this and that or such and such,
Yeah, double honor save.
Suicide.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the second Japanese episode where it's purely really about suicide.
Was the other one about the suicide forest, perhaps?
It certainly was.
Yes, sir.
Aokigahara
Yes, sir.
was one of our first episodes. That was fun. Sea of Trees, it was called.
It was pretty spooky.
And depressing.
It's pretty spooky.
It was.
Dude, it's still active.
Chris and I have a pact. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's still active. It's a cultural phenomenon, man.
Yeah.
I want to fucking kill myself there sooner or later.
Seppuku isn't really a thing anymore. At least not that's recorded. So it's crazy that Suicide Forest and that's still active. Like people still go there and kill themselves. But something like Seppuku has died off.
Seppuku was more of an honor thing. Like it was the samurai code kind of deal, So that went away with that way of thinking.
Kakegurui is more of just I'm sad.
Like the Japanese people are very goal-oriented people.
Yeah.
So it's all about having the best and doing the best, and when you're not, it's got to be hard on the Japanese psyche, I suppose. And suicide is still seen as not, I don't want to say this, but a dignified way to go.
It's still seen that way?
The Japanese people are very suicide. They're not like for it, but they're not like opposed to it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's
stop asking me questions for answers I don't fucking.
It's like my favorite band, the Suicide Boys, always say, "Southside suicide, kill yourself, ho."
That's a stupid thing.
Southside suicide, kill yourself. What?
That's a dumb.
You're dumb.
That's just a dumb.
You're just a dumb.
Hey man.
I saw your birth certificate when under male or female they wrote a third box and they just put it's a dumb.
Aw.
Yeah.
That is what they said. And that's still what they say. I just like that you took the time to learn a little something about me.
No problem, man. I care about you.
Yep. You've just listened to a belly cutting uppinest time episode of See No, Hear No, and Speak No.
The conspiracy. Wait, fuck. The UFOs, the conspiracies,
there it is,
and the ritualistic moitas.
Aww. I mean, that's. Do you call suicide a murder?
It's what about the second?
It's more of a mercy killing, assisted suicide, really.
Mercy murder. Assisted murder.
No.
Assisted self-murder.
I think, like, if somebody's like, "Hey, you have to commit suicide," I'm gonna go ahead and say that person's committing murder.
Well,
right?
There's no interesting way for me to say suicide. I can't be like ritualistic. Hioi.
No, I think you nailed it. I think that's perfect. Actually, that was pretty good. Countdown. 3, 2, 1. Thanks for hanging out, James, and stop your recording.